Hi guys, welcome to Pixel Affair. So in today's video we are going to see how we are going to do this, and this is using Cinema 4D's particle system to sort of deform an object, and where the deformation happens is also picks the color of the particle as well, right? And this video is actually something I saw from the Insidium page using particles to deform objects, and I decided to try it with the Cinema 4D particle. This is quite straightforward to do, so let's get into Cinema 4D and see how we will do something like this. And it's really flexible. I actually did this one as well with a bigger like deformation, but this what we are going to do. So let's get into Cinema 4D and see how we will do that. So I'm in Cinema 4D and I'm using Cinema 4D 2024.4, but I think you should be able to do this in probably some of the recent previous version of Cinema 4D, because it's not really necessarily unique to just the particle system, but that's what you're going to use. You're going to use the particle system in Cinema 4D to do this. So this is the scene. If I hit play, you can see our sphere start deforming, and the particles that's moving on the surface sort of deforms the sphere. So let's actually start a whole new scene. Alright, and see how we'll create it from scratch. So I'll come in here and I'll create my sphere. I'll select the sphere and change it from standard to icosahedron, and let's increase the segments to 200, right, so that we have enough segments. And I don't like the work plane, so I'll come to my filter and I'll check work plane. So now this is the sphere we are going to use to emit our particles. So what I usually do is I like putting it in a connect object. So I'll come into my objects and I'll create a connect object and I'll put the sphere in. Let's select the connect and make sure world is unchecked, right? So now let's go ahead with the connect selected. We can come in here and I'll choose into the simulation tab and I'll choose the emitter, particle emitter. We'll choose mesh emitter. So you can see our particle object, the connect object has already been added. If I come to the emission tab, and see our connect object has already been added. So now if I hit play, you can see some particles are coming from our connect object, right? This is fine. So let's go to the properties and reduce the speed to something like 50. And also let's actually add some random colors. So the colors, it's set to constant. Let's set it to random, and let's choose load one of these. I'll choose full colors, right? And if you hit play, you can see you have particle with different colors coming out. Now let's go back to the emission, and we want just one shot, not constant emitting. So I'll set shot and maybe increase it something like 300. So if I hit play, you can see 300 particles are coming out. That's fine, but we want it to move on the surface of our object, not moving away, right? So this is the emitter we use to generate the particles. So now let's put that one aside. So we don't want to deform that same emitter. We want to deform like that same surface. This is the connect, but we want the same surface, just that we don't want to deform the one that's emitting it. So to do that, we just create an instance of it. So with the connect selected, I come to objects and I'll choose instance. So we can see if I select it and move, you can see we have another sphere, but it's basically referencing this here. So if I come in here and set this, reduce the scale, you can see it's also doing the same thing, right? So I'll set it back. Right, so now I'll put this one into a null object, this connect one, and hide the null object, right, so that we don't see our original mesh, but we see the instance one. So this is what you are going to deform. So how do we first of all get our particles to move on the surface? Now to do that, we will need first of all, let's create a volume builder, right? And the volume builder, let's drag in our connects here, connect the original one. Let's drag it in. Let's set the voxel size to something like 2, and let's change it from sign distance field to vector, right? And let's come into our fields. Let's choose a random field, or is it? Let's drag into the volume builder, and if you select the volume builder, I can see that random field has been added into the field here. So let's select the random field. The creation space, change it from box to object below, so that I recognize the sphere that we've placed the connect here. And also the mode, like let's change it from normal to cross, right? And I think we are good. So from here going, let's adjust the scale of the random. So if you select the random, come to the scale, let's adjust it to like say 400, right? And you can add a little bit of animation speed to it to like maybe 50, right? If I should hit play, see our vectors are, it's moving, right? But still our particle is not moving on the surface. So we will need a force to force it to use it to move on the surface. And that's going to be the force, the field force. So I'll come into my simulation tab, forces, and I'll choose field force. I'll drag it down. And in the field force, in the object tab, not the fields tab, the object tab here, let's drag in our volume builder. And let's choose volume. And now in the velocity type, let's change it from add velocity to change direction. So it's basically directing our particles, but not the speed or its velocity. So if I should hit play, in fact, let me hide the volume builder as well. If I hit play, you can see now our particles are moving on the surface of our sphere. Right, let's increase the timeline as well. Let me add another 0. It's moving on the surface of our sphere, right? So now we are going to use this particles to deform our sphere, right? So now that everything is fine, it's moving on the surface. Okay, let's actually select default. Okay, everything is fine. How then do we get it to deform our sphere? We have to use a displacer. So I'll come into my deformers and I'll choose a displacer deformer. I'll make it a child of our instance object, which one? This one. Select the displacer and come to the shading, and the shader tab here, let's choose color. So what's basically doing is that it's using the color, this color, which is white, to deform our object, move the height, like scale our basic object, right? And it on its normal 10 centimeters. So it's sort of moving it 10 centimeters. Let's set it something like probably 6, right? And now we are going to use sort of the particles to mask, the displacer. So if you come to the fields tab here, let's drag in our particle group. See, drag in our particle group and let's hit play. You can see now it's displacing our sphere based on every particle. I think the radius is quite big, so with the particle group selected here, can reduce the radius to something like 6, right? And you can see you have small radius and everything, right? And also I don't like the way it's pointy, right? So what I'll do is I'll select it, and that's based on the remapping tab. So if I come to the remap tab here, you can see it's kind of pointy, like, so to do that, to change it, we come down here to the contour mode and choose curve, and with the curve we can actually come in here and shape it. If I should get closer, can shape it. You can see, in fact, let's increase the mesh density. Let's select the sphere and set it to 400, right? And now you can see it's a bit cleaner. So now if I select my displacer and select the particle and come down to the remap tab here, you can see if I come to the contour now, you can see if I move, it's shaping how the tip, it's not as pointy as it was initially. Now it's like that. So something like this is fine. You can actually play with it to get how you want it. So now if I hit play, you can see it comes in, it moving on the surface. Now it's not giving us that trail, like, that we want. And to do that, it's just simple as coming into our modifiers here and choose decay. Click and hold it, and you can choose decay. So if you add a decay and go back and hit play, see now it gives us that trail, that nice trail. We can actually increase the size of the trail to something like 85. I mean, you can play with it to see what works for you and what you like. So that's basically it, right? And you can see everything is moving. So now now that we've basically gotten it to deform our object, how do we sort of get it to get the colors of our particles? And I think it's stopping. So let's increase also the speed of our random so that it doesn't stop at some point. Let's actually random field increase it, because I don't like it stopping. I want it to be moving all the time. So, but basically you get the idea, right? Maybe let's reduce the scale to something like 350 as well. I don't know why it's stopping, but we'll get back to that later. All right, okay, so it's moving. How do we get it to make sure it gets the colors our objects, inherits the colors of our particles, and that's quite simple. If you follow some of my tutorials, you know it's very easy as just using the vertex color. So I'll right click on our connect instance, right click on it, and I'll come to other tags and I'll add vertex color. Oh, I mean, I keep choosing vertex. Come to other tags, vertex color. Right, you can see now it's black. So select the vertex color, and in the fields tab, all we have to do is to drag in our particle group, and you can see now we have the colors, but it's not, it looks some way. If I should go back, it looks some way. So let's select the particle group, come down from, it's set to nearest, let's set it to average and see. I think average is fine, and see average is fine every particle, but it's quite big, the radius is big, so let's set it to also we did 6 for the displays. All right, so let's do 6 for the vertex as well, and you can see it's fine. All right, now another thing is it's not smooth, it's quite some way, like, even though, but we need the trail as well, so let's do the same. Select, come down into our modifiers and add a decay to it, and the decay, let's increase it probably even more, 90. Let's see what happens. You can see that one too gives us a trail, but it's not smooth, right? We want it to be smooth, but it's not smooth. One way is to increase the number of um, segments. Let me actually set it to 500 and see. All right, and let's hit play. All right, but still nothing, it doesn't smooth. So to solve it is, let's create another color vertex color. So I'll first for name this one, I'll select the vertex color and I'll name it vertex color. I'll add 1 to it, and let's right click on it, come to other tags, vertex color, and I'll actually name this one 2. So with the vertex color 2, let's come to it field tab here, and now let's drag in the vertex color 1, and let's hit play. Not much has changed. First of all, let's select this one, the vertex color 1 within the vertex color 2, and make sure use deform point is unchecked. Use deform point, this one is unchecked. So if you go back and hit play, I think it should be fine. And let's change it from nearest to average. You can see now it's smoothing it, like actually reduce average like probably 3. And now let's see, you can see now we have a smoothing vertex color, right? It's not as sharp as the original. So that's basically it, and this is what you are going to use to color our material. Right, we send this color to our material in Cinema 4D. So now that we have this, we are basically done. The rest is actually adding our material to our object. Now another thing I did is I actually added a little let me actually first of all come in here, create a normal standard Cinema 4D material and make it, drag it on top of it here so that we see. And we can actually, let me actually double click on this one and come to our color in here, and I'll choose effects, vertex map, and let's select that, click on it and drag in our vertex color 2. Right now you can see we are seeing it in our viewport in the Cinema 4D, but this is not what you're going to use to render. I actually use a node, and I'll show how I actually did that one. But now that we've been able to bring this one here, let's see other things I did. I also added a jiggle deformer to give it some secondary motion, right? So with the jiggle for the deformer, what I did is I created another connect object, drag it down, and I placed my instance object in the connect object. Select the connect and make sure all this unchecked. And now let's come into our deformers, and I'll add a jiggle, and I'll add it on top like that, right? And also I wanted it to be a bit smooth, right? So I also added smoothing, like, so I come to my deformers and I'll choose smoothing, and I add it like that. So you can see it's smoothing our deformation. Let's select the smoothing, come to here and reduce the iteration a bit so that's no smooth, so something like probably 3, right? So that's basically all I did. And now with the jiggle deformer, you can see it gives it that rough like secondary motion, but I kind of slows it down a little. So this one is something you probably add when you're about to render. So you get basically the idea. So now how did I render this in Anode? So in Anode, all I did was I actually have an HDRI. Like I already have an Anode Sky, which there's HDRI image in it, right? So if I should come into my Anode IPR, let me actually bring it on the side here. Right, you can see we see our object. Now let's go ahead and create our Anode standard surface, and I'll create a standard surface, and I'll make it drag it on top of our let's put it on the connect this one. All right, now you can see it's not showing. We want to get the colors. So to do that, I double click on to bring the Anode node editor. All right, and now let's hit C in here, and I'll look for vertex. So vertex map, you can see, and now with the vertex map, you can drag in the vertex map too, and now you can connect that to our color. You can see it's supposed to show, but it's not showing. So let's probably let me move it on the side and let it start from scratch. If I hit play and it comes out, right? Yeah. So now let's render to see if the color shows up. Yeah, you can see now our colors are showing through our material, right? But what another thing I did is you can see the where there's no color, it's black, but I wanted a different color, and I wanted to blend it with a different color so that it works in here. So what I did is I used, so if I hit C, I use user data no layer, I mean, so I see and I look for layer RGB, layer RGBA. So layer RGBA gives you the ability to mix several like shaders together. So you can see if I connect the layer RGBA, right, everything will disappear. And I'll connect the vertex color to input 2, right? I can see this issue. And the input 1, let's select it, the layer RGBA. Let's choose the color we want to be like. Let's choose something like, say, let me go with, I don't know, maybe something like bluish, something like that, right? Okay, so this is going to be our input 1, but because like layers, the top input will be the one showing, so you have to mix it. So if I come down here, you can see the layer 2 is set to override, so it's overriding the blue. So we can change the blend mode to all the modes that we know in Photoshop and stuff like that. So if I shoot it to screen, you can see now it's blending, the colors is blending with the blue behind. So if you don't want, you can choose any color that you feel like will work for you. So basically that's how I actually set that one up, right? Something like this, something like I mean, that's basically how I set it up, right? And now I have my color showing mixed with the vertex color of our object, and also I use this in the emission, just the vertex color straight up in the emission. So I come to emission, drag the node here, connect it somewhere here, and come for emission, and I add color. Select this one, and the emission down here, increase it to like probably something, maybe let's see, 1, to make it more brighter, something like that. So now if I should hit play, let's go ahead and play, counts on the surface, and it's moving and all of that. It generates something. So if I should pause in the render, that's basically what I did, right? Now I also added, if like the original one, let me actually see. can see there's this roughness like kind of happening in there. And let me actually show how I did that. So one thing I also added to the standard is I added a little bit of um, thin film effect here. Let me set it to like say 200 or something, or 300, something like this. I see I added a bit of thin film. And one thing I also did is that I added a bit of bump. So if I bring this one, you can see it's the bump that's giving us that sort of step looking gradient. And that's all I did was to use the same vertex map, right? And if I hit C, I can bring in a ramp, and I'll select our vertex map, connect it to the ramp, select the ramp, and change it from U to custom. And then let's drag the ramp node here, connect, come to geometry, and let's connect. In fact, no, you have to need a bump map. So let's hit C, look for bump 2D, right? And now let's connect this to our bump, and now let's connect our bump rather into our geometry, a standard geometry normal, right? So it's giving us some bump, but the bump, I don't want it like direct. So what I did is I selected this, make sure black and white in the middle, and I right click and say duplicate, duplicate not not distribute, duplicate. So I click duplicate, double nut. I did it severally till eventually you can see you are getting that step in double nut once again. So now if you allow this to settle and render, you can see we are getting, let me actually move this one here and get closer to it. You can see we are getting that stepping, in there. You can see we have that kind of stepping. So it was like deliberate. I was just playing around to see how it will pan out. So that's what I did to get that kind of stepping effect in where the colors are, right? So you can see we see. So I doubled it up a little, couple. I think once more here. Let me double it once again. And that's basically all I did in the original video. And now if I pause and let's hit play to generate it once again. To play a little bit. All right, that's basically, and hit play, render here. You can see the stepping is showing through, and I think that the bump is too much. I can select the bump and I reduce it to like 0.2 or something so that it shows, but not as much, not even 0.1, 0.07, something small just to be in it. Yeah, I think something like this. So with this setup, you can see now if I, for instance, want to change it from sphere to something else, for instance, let's create a different object, like let's create a plane. I can just select come into the connect, take away the sphere, and now let's put the plane in there, and let's go ahead and hide sphere, right? And now I think it should work with, now that we've placed the plane in there and hit play. I think it needs enough segments, so let's select the plane and set it 100 by 100 and hit play to see. And see now it's happening on the plane. In fact, let's increase it a bit more, maybe 400 by 400, right? And now let's go back, see what we have. I see it's happening on the plane. I think it's too much. Just for the sake of the video, let's actually make it 200 so that we see, for us to see what's going on. You can see now on our plane the deformation is happening right on our plane as well. So if I should get closer somewhere like that, and hit render, It's actually showing. Let it start. And there, because of the decay effects it calculates, sometimes if you are rendering some still part of it, it looks like the decay of the colors didn't show. But I mean, so it will be nice after everything. You can see it's happening on the surface of our plane, right? So it will be nice to, after everything, you have to make sure you bake your object. And with the jiggle deformer, you can actually come in here and bake it. Select the jiggle deformer and you can hit calculate to cache it. Or it will be nice to bake your particles, then you go ahead and also bake your mesh and you'll be fine. So that's basically it. And that's basically how I actually did this. I think it was just fun to do it. And but in the process, I'm sure you've probably learned a technique or two in the process of doing this particular using particles to deform objects. I hope you've learned like one or two, like I said. And if there's anything or any question, you probably can ask in the comment section or hit me up on Instagram. And let's see. This is something I saw and I felt like it would be interesting to see what I can do with it. And I think it was fun doing it, so I decided to share. Hope you also enjoyed it and you've learned one or two things in here. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.